Welcome to California in Focus. I'm David Mastio, and today we're talking about the latest subsidy California is going to give undocumented immigrants. Joining me today is the Center Square's Kenneth Trupp, as always. Kenneth, what's the news?
Hey, David. So California, one of its appointed, non-elected commissions, is considering giving undocumented immigrants access to state-funded cell phone subsidies that make a lot of cell phone plans absolutely free. The California Public Utilities Commission has a vote on September 26th on whether or not individuals without social security numbers, which really does mean undocumented immigrants, can use this program, which is funded entirely by people who subscribe to and pay for cell phone and landlines within the state. So this new plan would allow individuals to use Mexican voter registration cards, foreign passports, consular identification cards, and the what are called AB60 California driver's licenses, or these driver's licenses that California issues to individuals who are not legally in the state. People would be able to use these kinds of identification to confirm their identity to access these phone user-funded subsidies for low-income individuals. So this California program currently charges every single cell phone and landline user in the state $1.11 per month monthly surcharge to each phone line. And recipients of this program get $17.90 as a subsidy. And this is in addition to a $9.25 federal subsidy. But to get that federal subsidy, you need to actually have a social security number. California plans on providing this $9.25 federal subsidy value to the individuals that it approves without a social security number. Now, the issue here is the United States Federal Communications Commission. The California sought a waiver from the FCC to be able to provide the equivalent of the federal subsidies to applicants who don't provide social security numbers, but that waiver is still pending. So in 2016, the FCC said it no longer wished to support program rule exceptions for individual states, which means that if the CPUC were to start giving out this subsidy on its own, and of course it wouldn't take the federal money, which equates to about $150 million a year, but would instead have to come from this surcharge. So they probably have to raise the surcharge to reflect this new $150 million up to $150 million that the state would need to start paying out of its own pocket instead of federal money. But the problem is, if the FCC was really unhappy with what California is doing, it could pull the entire federal subsidy for violation of its rules or federal law. We don't know what the FCC is going to do if there is a change of power in the November elections. There is a chance that this funding could disappear for states that do not follow FCC guidelines.
So this isn't the first time that subsidies for undocumented immigrants has become an issue in California in recent weeks. The governor has vetoed a bill. Can you tell me about that?
Right. So last month, California lawmakers did pass a bill that would allow undocumented immigrants to make use of up to $150,000 each in the zero down, zero payment home, quote, loan program that the state has. It requires people to pay back the loan value plus 20% of the appreciation in a home when it's transferred and sold. But you wouldn't make interest payments and you just get the money. There's no down payment to get this loan. It's really like a home equity exchange program that cost the state quite a lot of money. There was no funding for it this year because we have no money. We barely closed a $47 billion budget shortfall this year. And last year's $255 million budget for this program ran out in 11 days, funding just 1,700 applicants. So this program is very oversubscribed and already can't really help that many people. Remember, it's just 1,700 people received funding from this program, which had $255 million. There's really not a lot of capacity in there. And a lot of people got attention for this, thinking, well, shouldn't this program be prioritizing Californians who are here legally? This is a program also that's open to veterans. Should veterans be on the same footing as undocumented immigrants for this housing program, especially in a state that has a 4.5 million home housing shortage and median home prices at about almost $1 million.
That's really kind of amazing. And California has a long history of subsidizing undocumented immigrants. I think famously, it's one of the few states where the state version of Medicaid called Medi-Cal gives undocumented immigrants access to health care, right?
Yes. This year, we're expected to spend about $5 billion providing state-sponsored and taxpayer-funded health care to undocumented immigrants in the state. Any undocumented immigrant in the state does qualify for this program so long as they're within the income guidelines, which is very often the case. This Medi-Cal system does include access to gender reassignment surgeries, among other things. It's not really the bare bones government system that you would imagine. It's quite comprehensive in what is offered. Of course, Medi-Cal doesn't really pay very much to doctors, so doctors are becoming a little more hesitant to accept it. The payments to doctors are not keeping up with inflation. Meanwhile, the number of subscribers of the system is skyrocketing because living in California is very expensive, sending a lot more people under the state poverty line to qualify for the program. And of course, we just added a few million more people to potential enrollment, which is also going to put pressure on the program. So you have doctors, the number of doctors per person is declining, and it's really not looking good for the Medi-Cal system. There's also a spending goal that the government does have for healthcare that where the state just says it just wants to spend less on healthcare. I'm not sure how it's really going to reach that while expanding coverage to so many people. What's interesting here is when Kamala Harris was running for president in the primary against Joe Biden, she did fill out a questionnaire from the ACLU stating that she supported providing gender surgery and treatment to transgender individuals in federal immigration detainment. That's a very specific answer to a very specific question. But that is something that she has since, I believe, said that she no longer supports, or that was ridiculous at the last debate. But this is a matter of record that she has supported that. And ultimately, a lot of what's happening in California is or could be tied to her in the future.
Kenneth, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.